Hi, this is Stacia, and today we're going to look at a game played by none other than the great Bobby Fischer. So, he played against someone named Bisquire in this game in the New York State Championship in 1963. Let's have a look at the game. Fischer opened with e4, best by test, and he faced e5, double king pawn. Knight f3 was played by Fischer, and knight c6, defending the pawn, and bishop c4. So this is kind of interesting because Fischer was known for playing the Roy Lopez, but in this game and the other Skittles game on my channel, he played bishop c4. And incidentally, both games were played in 1963. So he was going through a little Italian game resurgence during 1963, apparently. Okay, and Bisquire chose the two knights defense. Also common is bishop c5, and I wonder if Fischer would have went for Evans' gambit. But okay, knight f6. And now white has some choices. They can go d3, which is kind of a passive approach, but totally fine. d4, which is the open two knights, and knight g5 is possible. So Fischer actually played this move. Now, a lot of strong grandmasters have commented that this is sort of a Potzer move, like a beginner move, because, you know, it looks like you're gonna, ooh, I'm gonna win f7, and then black plays here, and it's like, oh, I'm not gonna win f7. But Fischer actually commented that it looks like a primitive move, but he said it's the only way to fight for an advantage. So d5 was played by Bisquire. Fischer takes the pawn, and now the knight's attacked, so Bisquire played knight a5. And this is all theory. The bishop is now attacked, so Fischer checked. c6 takes. Now, gotta watch out because you're gonna potentially lose your queen with check. So black takes with a pawn here, which is pretty interesting. So wrecking their structure and leaving the knight on the edge. It looks so unnatural. But after bishop e2, and the main line's bishop, oh, I'm sorry, the main line is bishop e2, played by Fischer in the game. Bishop d3 is also played at the top level these days. Now we have an interesting position where if you do a pawn count, white is up a pawn, but black has better development and is going to have an attack on the king side. So it's pretty interesting. And yeah, this knight looks aggressive, but the problem is white spends so many tempos doing this. You know, so the bishop comes to c4, comes here to check, comes back to e2. That's 3 tempos. And the knight went knight f3, knight g5, and after something like h6, the knight's going to have to retreat again too. So 3 tempos spent on pieces that are going to be fairly passively placed. 3 tempos each, so that's 6 tempos. All right, so let's see how Fischer treats this position. He basically thinks that he should grab a pawn and then defend and then win the ending. That's basically what he's saying here. h6 was played by Bisquire, and knight h3. Okay, I'm going to take my arrows out. All right. Now, if you're thinking this move looks ridiculous, you're right. It is ridiculous, but it's also good. So this was an old move that Steinitz used to play, and it didn't really work out for Steinitz back in the day, but Fischer loved to find these old moves and then sort of like give them a rebirth. And that's what he did this game. So I think that's a really cool strategy for us chess players to consider too, is to find old moves like this that maybe were refuted or maybe are just fine to play but no one really plays it, and it can become a surprise factor. Okay, so here he played bishop c5. I think Bisquire plays this correctly. Bishop c5, applying pressure here. I mean, you always are going to have to worry about this idea as white. Fischer castled, saying, okay, I'll give you another chance. My king's even over here now, so if you want to take my knight and wreck my king side, I'm up for the challenge. And so guess what Bisquire did? First he castled, so Fischer could move the knight, or could he? Actually, he can't even move the knight. That's how horrible that knight is. He played d3, so developing, and Bisquire took him up. So, okay, the fun begins. We have quite an imbalance here. Fischer took, of course, but this creates an isolated pinned f-pawn, an isolated h3 pawn, and, well, double isolated h-pawns. And the king's already committed on the king side. So this, I notice this a lot when I look at Fischer's games. Like, I see stuff like this, and if my student was playing this game, I would just shake my head and be like, you know, why do you allow your king side to get wrecked? You're going to get attacked and checkmated. But this is Bobby Fischer. So he prepared this line, and let's see what he has in mind. Queen d7. So Bisquire is looking to regain his pawn. Do you think Fischer let him? He did. Yeah. Bishop f3 was played. Bishop f3. So Bisquire can take his pawn, and he did. But now Fischer's basically arguing that his bishop on g2 will guard the king, and that his two bishops are going to help him hold down the position and eventually win, perhaps. So, okay. Knight b2 is played. Knight d2, I mean. Yeah, and interesting is this. You can play bishop g2 right away. You can even try to win a pawn. Like, for example, this knight's undefended. This pawn's undefended. So we could attack the queen. Let's say the queen goes here. We could try this move, queen e1, it's a fork. The problem, though, is this, and Fischer saw this during the game. Rook e8, exclam. Looks like a blunder, but if we take the knight, knight g4, and, well, I think my arrows tell you everything you need to know. Pretty much got to play h3 here, but check. The bishop's no longer attacked because it just took the f-pawn. And if we take, check, I think you can see that this is going to be very bad, right? Here, I'll go through the line a little more. Notice we cannot check here. I almost did, but the queen is guarding this. So the correct move is e4. Yeah, and the pawn is going to capture here, and the rook is going to appear on e1. This is going to be checkmate. So, okay. So Fischer didn't even bother with bishop g2 right away. He brought his knight out, which I think is a cool idea. So the knight, you know, is now ready to jump into the e4 square. Rook e8 was played. Now bishop g2. The queen has to move. Mind you, if the queen comes to the h4 square, Fischer thought knight f3 was pretty good for white. So after this, the queen actually comes here. And queen e1. This isn't a move I would find either. But queen e1, it makes a lot of sense to me now. Because, like, Fischer's thinking about potentially transferring the queen this way. Also, it's eyeing the undefended knight. And it's eyeing this pawn. And it's stepping off the file with the rook. So I like all these things. I think queen e1 just does a lot of good things for white's position. Bisquire played this move. So this defends the pawn. It also lines a different rook up with the queen. Okay, and knight e4. So this is a discovered attack on the knight. So Bisquire didn't see that, and he lost his knight, and then he resigned. No, just kidding. The other problem is that the bishop's attacked. The knight's attacked. So this is a move that's basically going to trade pieces. Which, even though pawns are equal, white has the two bishops. So I think it does favor white slightly. And Bisquire retreated his bishop. What would you do? Would you take the knight with a knight? Well, guess what? If you did, you'd lose. It's not so obvious right away. But the thing about this move is d takes e4. That's a tempo on the queen. And now the queen has to move. So once the queen moves, we can even throw this in. Free knight. So you can't take that way because the pawn is a tempo on the queen, and then we pick up the knight on a5. So, okay. Bisquire saw that. He played bishop b6. This is also a very awesome bishop, by the way. Look at that. It's pinning the f-pawn. There's pressure on the f-pawn. And this bishop is just going to stay good for a while, right? Well, let's see what happens. Fischer now played knight takes f6. He expressed some reluctancy about this move because I don't think you want to trade off an awesome knight in the center. But I kind of understand this move because I don't think like this recapture assists black and this recapture doesn't assist black. So I feel like trades are less bad if they don't improve your opponent's position, you know. But the other thing is that he was concerned about this maneuver. He did not want the knight coming here for some reason. Probably because it looks pretty awesome. Yeah, especially this. So he took the knight. Bisquire took. And now I have a question for you. What would you play as white here? Okay, I thought queen e4 was a good move. And the computer does agree that this move is pretty decent. But I kind of like Fischer's move better. He played king h1. It's like, during attacks, I'm so afraid to make moves like this. But it makes a lot of sense. He spent a tempo to get out of that pin. And here's the real idea. Not only is the king safer here. Sorry, I'm so bad with these arrows on the analysis board. Not only is the king a little bit safer here, but now white can aim to play for f4. And once f4 is in, you can imagine that this rook is a lot better than it is now. And white's position will start to get freed up. The queen will have access, the bishop. I feel like white's position will come alive if he can get that f4 move in. So that's something I learned from this game. All right, so Bisquire played c5. Why do you think he played that move? What kind of weird move is that? Well, guess what? It has a couple ideas. It's actually a really strong move and the top computer choice. Not something I saw coming, but one of the ideas is to clear the c6 square for the knight. The knight could come back into action and enter the d4 square. The other idea, though, is the move c4. It's actually a pawn break. If black gets in c4 and we take, the knight takes. So again, the knight becomes really active, but also the weak pawn gets traded off, and it's definitely an improvement for black. So I really like this move c5. So what did Fischer play here? Queen c3. So queen c3 is really interesting. So he actually thought, let's see. He thought black might try g5 instead of this c5 move, because the idea is to stop f4. But Fischer saw this. f4 anyway. And guess what? Oh, wait, not yet. I'm sorry. No, it does work here. Okay, I'll show you when it doesn't work later. But he thought g5 was a good try here. But c5, like I said, is the tough computer choice. And queen c3, he thought, basically does a lot of things. He says it stops this move. It stops this move because we would trade queens. And it prepares the f4 break. So pretty strong move if it's doing all that stuff. So Bisquire played knight c6 using the newly cleared square. And now, if instead of knight c6, now if black tries this move g5, it doesn't work. f4, and guess what? You can't take because the queen is undefended. You move the pawn. In addition, you can't take this way because guess what? We're still using the pin. So that's kind of a nice feature that white's basically going to get f4 in at this point. So queen c3, confident that you'll get f4 in. Knight c6, f4 as planned, and knight d4 as planned. Okay. Here Fischer plays queen c4. Again, these are the type of deep moves that I like to learn from. Queen c4 has a very specific idea. Fischer comments that now c4 is never happening, and as a result, this becomes just a big pawn. That's basically what he said. Now, I feel like this bishop has a future here at some point, but if he does go there, we take the pawn, so it's tough. So this move, queen c4, you know, it kind of like inhibits black's position. It just shuts out this bishop. Such a cool move. I want to find moves like that in my games. Bisquire played queen g6. Now we're really glad we played king h1. And c3 was played. Okay. So I'm wondering about knight e2 here. If this move, I guess it is a move. Computer gives f5 and queen d6. Attacking here. And queen g4. Wow. And who's attacking who? I don't know. Knight f4 could be played. Bishop e4. Wow. So I think knight e2 is really interesting. He didn't say anything about it here, or maybe he did, but instead Bisquire goes here. Now, this move does make sense though, because Fischer said the knight would be awesome on h4. Not something that you would normally hear, but when your opponent doesn't have a g-pawn, then a knight on h4 could be very good. All kinds of attacking ideas. So that's kind of the point of this knight f5 move. Let's see. Takes. I don't think this is played in the game. Okay, it was played in the game. Okay, sorry. All right. Oh yeah, I gave the move. I gave a different move here and it was instructive, I thought. Let me see. Where is my move? Oh, I thought bishop e5, but Fischer gave queen h5, and he said the position's unclear. Notice that this is a threat check. The pawn's pinned. Okay, so I think Fischer took. Rook takes e5, bishop f4, and rook e2. And he said here that black is playing for an advantage. He could have played this way, knight here, and after takes. Fischer said this is just equal. Like bishop e4 and queen here. Now this idea stopped and it's just equal. Not to mention this is a threat too. Alright, so rook e2 instead. And Bisquire is basically saying like, hey, I'm going to get the better ending at the end of all this. Even though you have the two bishops, I'm going to have more pawns. Good luck. Fischer played bishop e4. This pins the knight. And Bisquire took the pawn. So guess what? Fischer commented here that it was really unfortunate that Bisquire made this move. He said, just when the game was getting interesting. White to move and win. Pause your video. See if you can find it. Okay, and hopefully you found the move. Bishop e5. It's basically a discovery. It looks kind of funny because it's like, what does this really do? But the bishop is pinning the knight is attacked, and now if rook e8, we can take the rook or take the knight with a rook. Mind you, you don't want to take this way because that blunders checkmate. So you have to take with a rook. And after this, Bisquire took back, Fischer took the rook, and he resigned. Basically, there's no way out of this. Fischer is going to play this move, and the bishop is x-raying the h7 square. So once the queen steps out of the way, this will be pretty much checkmate. And the queen cannot come to this because the bishop's still guarding at the same time. So best bishop ever on the e4 square. Love this bishop. And that's the bishop he kept. It's the one that was on g2 the whole game. So, okay, I want to show you why bishop e5 works because I'm not totally sure myself. So let's try a couple other moves. Seems like we have other discoveries, right? But if we go here, there's actually knight takes g3. That comes with check, so we don't have time to take the queen. And if we go, let's say here, trying to take a rook, then black could just take this bishop. And the problem is we're going to get checkmated. Now if we take here, there's rook take h2 checkmate. So yeah, be careful. Not all discoveries win, right? So Fischer correctly saw that these more natural looking discoveries don't really work and that bishop e5 is just winning. Also, bishop e5 blocks this idea, which is really cool. So like let's say this move. Well, knight g3 check. All right, let's say this move. It says rook takes b8 wins. I'm trying to find some other discovery. Maybe there just is none. Yeah, this is the only move where the bishop's safe. Okay. So, instead of, let's see, instead of rook takes pawn, black actually had a really good move here. He should have played rook e8, Fischer noted. And this move looks silly at first, but the point is that he's going to take the bishop and then play queen g2 checkmate. Bishop's guarding that square. So here Fischer would have gone bishop f3, and now black could take the pawn. And the computer says it's equal, and Fischer said it was interesting. So I think the game could have gone on, but maybe it wouldn't have made the book. So I think it's good for all of us that it's in here. All right, I hope you enjoyed this game with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.